Good evening. My name is Loui and this is my first wine tasting course, and the whole idea of this particular course is to just take 6 bottles that you can find in your local store, corner shop, garage, and see if we can get some goodness out of them. Now, depending on the country that you're in, you might not be able to buy these exact bottles, but you'll be able to buy something as near as. So I've deliberately chosen a range of countries and grapes that are appropriate for trying. So just to start with, who am I? I'm a private purchaser of wine. I have around 300 bottles at the present time in my own wine cellar of varying ages. The oldest one that I have dates back to 1961, so it's 10 years older than I am. I'm Lifeweight's top 5 reviewer, and every week I do reviews on Twitter, and I live in Kent, which I like to think is the vineyard of England. So I've chosen red wines because most people that ask me about wine tasting prefer to try red wines, and you might want to try these on your own, but ideally get yourself 4 or 5 friends, 4 or 5 wines, and just run through what I'm going to do today as a wine tasting for a bit of fun. Don't forget to cook some nice steaks, or whatever it is you want to eat. And at the very least, when you're tasting, just make sure you've got some crackers or crisps, just so you've got something to just eat between the wines. And I really do recommend that you cleanse your palate between every wine, so just have some water handy as well. So we'll have a quick look at which wines we've got. And basically I've picked a Mendoza Malbec from Argentine. I've picked a Merlot from Chile. Chile is becoming very popular indeed for easy drinking wines. We've got a Kumala Shiraz from South Africa. We've got just a very basic shop brand, but it's actually a very good example of a pretty decent Spanish wine. And then I've got an Italian Primitivo and a blend from Australia. So I think they're all pretty middle of the road examples, and really if you just dash out and buy a bottle of wine, you really can't go wrong with any of these. We're going to explore their flavour profiles a bit in a moment. One of the main things people say to me is the vintage important? Well, on the wines I've chosen here, I would say it's absolutely not important at all. It doesn't make any odds. Occasionally a vintage in Bordeaux will make or break your wine collection, but basically just don't worry about vintage. Some people say, is the percentage, is that the alcoholic percentage, is that important? Well, I drink wines from 12% to 15%, and I would just say 12% are usually lighter bodied and the 15% are heavy bodied. But I'm not drinking the wine thinking, oh my gosh, I've got 13.5%. It's just immaterial, so don't let anything like that worry you. What's on here? Well, you've got the brand of the wine, you've got the country, it's a reserve. That will mean it's been in barrels for maybe 6 months. Again, it's not a massive thing. Just if you like reserve, just take note of that. A Malbec, that's the grape variety. 2020, that's the vintage, that's when it went into the bottle. Not necessarily when it went into the bottle, but it's when the grapes were grown. And then Mendoza is the specific part of Argentine that this comes from. And you're always going to get a good wine from Mendoza. It's kind of fail proof. Just sometimes people say, what do I do if I've got a corked wine? Well, let's face it, 5 out of 6 here are not corks, they're screw caps. You can occasionally get something wrong with a screw cap. It's so minuscule a risk, don't even think about it. Of all the wines I buy, and I buy over 200 bottles in a year, I've probably had a corked wine once in 3 or even 5 years. So corked wines really doesn't matter. And in general, if you do get any problem with the wine, just take it back to the merchant and they will usually refund you. Glasses we'll talk about as we go along. I prefer to drink out of a glass rather than a mug, but really, what does it matter what you drink out of? Just try and be classy enough not to drink out of the bottle, okay? It doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is just relax and enjoy your wine. A lot of these things just don't matter. What I do try and do in wine is I try to have a knowledge overall of what is in that bottle before I buy it. So if I've got to choose one of those 6 for an evening, I'll have a quick flavour profile memory as to which one is going to taste like what and what I want, you know, what's appropriate. In general, wines, keep them at room temperature. If it's summertime, you can put them in the fridge for half an hour or whatever. In the summer, I love to slice strawberries into cold red wine. And as we go into the autumn, I love to slice raspberries and blackcurrants into my wine and make a bit of a fruit cut. But that's just me. How long will your wine last? Well, you're probably just going to drink it, but because there's only me and I've now got 6, I will have these 6 open for some time. I have found if I leave them fairly near my oven, maybe around the kettles, you know, there's a bit of heat there, it really doesn't matter. These wines will last me at least 10 days in the bottle with no problem whatsoever. If I've got white wines in the fridge, they will last me a month. You know, maybe it's just me, but I never find a wine goes off on me. Never be nervous about wines, choosing wines, drinking wines with friends or tasting. Remember that wine is the elixir of life. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started, and I'm just going to have a few things. I like to have a bit of white paper around, and we're going to see why that's important. So I'm going to take a glass. This is a crystal glass, pretty typical sort of glass. It's perfect for red wine, and you know, it sounds nice. It's no more functional than a mug, but it's a glass. So the first one I'm going to take is this Argentine Malbec, and let's do the Jancis thing. She says, you know, you pour too much. Well, don't pour too much for a tasting, just a little bit. Now that is way too much, but hey. So just enough, and swirl it. And what happens when you swirl it? You're getting oxygen into the wine. It's important to get the oxygen in to really open the taste, you know, to get the flavours out. And as you swirl it, you're going to create what's called legs on the glass. So you can just look at those, and that's the wine coming down here. And you know, if you're really pro, you can probably tell the percentage of the wine just from looking at the legs. But quite frankly, whatever. Okay, so let's get a bit of white glass, paper, and just have a look. You're basically going to see very dark wine in the centre, but towards the edges you will see a variety of colours. They might be orange, brown, magenta, purple, scarlet. Just take a note of it. You can tell basically what age the wine is. So if it's a bit browner or orange, it's going to be an older wine, and if it's kind of, you know, pink purple, it's probably a very fresh wine. All of these wines, they cost me less than £8. That's very cheap in Britain. Britain and Ireland are about the most expensive wine countries in the world because we pay so much customs and excise on them, and VAT as well. So that's looking pretty nice. And the next thing is to just try the nose. So the nose is the smell of the wine. Just place your nose very carefully at the top, and perhaps, you know, breathe through one nostril and then the other nostril. The first thing you will get is a whiff of the alcohol, but try and see if you can find any sort of forest notes, fruit notes, maybe, you know, wet paper. You might find some wood, or you might find some herbs and so on, spice, that sort of thing. So just having an idea of the nose will give you an idea of what the taste is going to be and whether you're going to like it or not. And they do say that the taste buds are entirely dictated to by the nose, which I'm not entirely sure that's true, but okay, we already know it's reserve. I can smell a tiny bit of oak in there. There's a really nice, you know, it's some dark fruit now, and there's definitely a bit of sort of, you know, whatever you want to say, cigar box or something. Yeah, I'd say that's probably fairly spicy, and it's going to be, you know, a little bit of herb notes in there as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to taste. I'm just going to take a fairly small sip, not tiny, but I don't want too much. I'm going to glug it around my mouth. How much you glug around is up to you. The wine professionals glug it around like it's mouthwash, and then they spit it out. Now, I never spit wine. This stuff costs me good money that I've had to go out and earn. I am not wasting it. So I never spit. But if you do spit, spit into anything you like and just call it a spittoon. And what we're doing is we're trying to find the flavours on the tongue, but we're also trying to measure the length of the wine. And the length of the wine, the finish, is when it goes down your throat and how long it seems to sort of burn there for. Yes, it's a pretty tasty one. Doesn't taste of fruit particularly, but you know, I think if I was drinking a whole bottle of it through the evening, I'd probably find myself quite enjoying it as I go. It doesn't come across as any particular flavours, you know, right now, but that could be the temperature of the wine. It may not be quite warm enough. I would say it's got a medium finish, and it's, you know, it's a pretty attractive wine. So I definitely recommend that you try an Argentine Mendoza Malbec. Any of them, they're all fantastic. I'm just going to put this wine down because I don't want to drink too much of each one. Okay. That you know, that's highly recommended. And now we're going to go across the Andes to Chile. So let's get another glass. There's no sophistication in opening a screw cap. Just whack it open, glug it in. Not too much. It's more than enough. So we've got Isla Negra, Merlot, Chile, and 12%. The other one, sorry, was 14%. It's only 12%. That's interesting. It says it's got cherry, plum, and dark chocolate, and it suggests that you eat it with pasta. You can eat, oh sorry, drink red wine with anything that you can eat, just whatever, you know. Bag of crisps is more than sufficient. A steak is ideal. Barbecue, brilliant. Any time of year, fantastic. So just having a look at the legs there, nothing, you know, particularly impressive. Just swirling a bit of oxygen in, and then the nose. Well, it's quite a fruity wine. I think that's going to be quite enjoyable. So just a sip. And yeah, that's a pretty nice wine. It's pretty well balanced. I would say that is just a beautiful glugging wine. You know, I really do highly recommend Isla Negra Merlot. I must admit, I've done a wine tasting before with 11 Merlots, and believe it or not, you can get this for £5 if you look around for it. It came out top all around. So definitely highly recommend that one. And what I did forget to do was just cleanse the palate. Now, moving swiftly on because, you know, I don't want to take your time up too much. So we've got, this is a good basic South African red. And you will find generally there are two types of South African red, the pricey ones and the cheap and cheerful ones. So, you know, try them all, see what you like. The main thing about wine is you are going to have to kiss a lot of frogs to find a few princes. I've reviewed well over 400 wines for Leif Waits and Naked, and that's not all the different wines I've drunk, that's the ones I've reviewed, you know, and in there I've found a few that I just don't like, but most of them I like a fair old bit. So this one is Shiraz, and 13.5%, pretty middle of the road there. You will find as you go that you prefer certain grapes. So that was Malbec, Merlot and Shiraz. Really great varieties. Some of the ones you buy will be blends, and you might find that you're more of a blend person. The blends will give you a richer, darker wine. So I forgot to do that. Yeah, it's red. So we've probably got some legs there. Yeah, they're looking pretty sexy. And I must say there's a lot more on the nose on that one. There's quite a lot going on there. There's a bit of spice and some fruit and, you know, the odd sort of mushroom nestling on the florist floor. Be as imaginative as you can. When I do wine tastings with friends, they usually say things like wet socks. Now, to be fair, most of these wines won't have much of a finish because they're very new wines. That one is actually the nicest cheap and cheerful South African I've ever bought. Bit of dark cherry in there, bit of plum. You know, you don't have to be sophisticated, just making the effort to do this and swirl it around. Have a little think before you just, you know, throw it down your neck. That's all we're aiming at. Okay, that is excellent. I really do like that one actually. Now, moving swiftly on, I've got this. I've deliberately bought this one because it's such a generic sort of thing, and it's like, how can that be any good? It just says bold red. Most of these will come from a garage. These two came from Spa. They are Spa specials. If you look on the back, you'll see it's 13.5%. It's a Vino Tinto, so it's product of Spain. And if you look very carefully, somewhere it will tell you what grape it is. At least it doesn't, but I'm absolutely certain this one's Grenache and not Tempranillo. Okay, so Grenache is going to be, or Grenache, it's going to be a pretty good grape. There's no sophistication in opening it. It's, you know, just tilt the glass. You see, I'm now using a tumbler glass. I prefer these because I don't snap the stem so much, but it really doesn't matter what glass you use, just so long as it's clean. And the way to get a good clean glass is to use this when you're washing up. I use, you know, just ordinary washing up water. Really use a really good one without too many fibres. And then just to finish off, I just polish around with a tissue or kitchen paper. But I do, you know, I spend some time just looking to make sure the glass is nice and clean for when I next use it. So this is your sort of really cheap and cheerful Spanish wine. These are called table wines. You know, there's nothing fantastic about them. They're just good glugging wines. Kind of like zero nose. There's a lot of fruit in there, and there's a few herbs as well. If I had more time to just, you know, leisurely do it, I would probably come out with something fantastic. But I honestly would say that, you know, if you really haven't got a lot of money, just buy something like this. I mean, all the shops have got things like that. They're okay. They're good wine. Enough, you know, you're not going to impress your friends with them. You're just going to have fun. Very, very nice. And now I'm going to go for this one. So we've got to open this one because it's a cork. These are two basic corkscrews. So this one's very popular. It's not so good because you can see, you know, it's a closed screw, but it's ideal because it's lazy. And that's about all the exercise that I get in a week. Look at that. Okay. And then this one is called the Waiter's Friend. I always have one of these in my car. I have one in my pocket most of the time because you just never know when you're going to want one of these. And the first thing is it opens like this, and it's got this to take the, well,